Walk into any relationship today and you'll notice something unsettling. Men are trying. Men are investing. Men are showing up with genuine intentions. And yet most of them feel more lost than ever. They give love, but feel like they're always one step behind. They say the right words, but still misunderstand the moment. They do everything they believe a good man should do, and confusion hits them like a wall. Why does she say one thing and act another? Why does warmth turn into distance without warning? Why do small moments turn into emotional landmines? Most men blame themselves. Most men assume they're the problem. Most men never discover the truth. There is a structure beneath behavior, patterns, psychological configurations, things you were never taught to see, but feel the consequences of every single day. Because here's the secret, relationships are not chaos. People are not random. Every behavior has a reason, and every reason has a pattern. Once you learn to read those patterns, everything changes. This isn't about judging women. It isn't about pedestalizing them or demonizing them. It's about finally understanding what's been invisible this whole time. Today, we're going to make the hidden structure visible. We're going to take the guesswork out of relationships. We're going to give you clarity where confusion once lived. Pay attention, take notes if you must. Because once you understand what I'm about to show you, you can't unsee it. Today, that changes. This is not about judging anyone. This is not about demonizing women or idealizing them. And this is not about romantic illusions that keep men confused or cynical bitterness that keeps them angry. This is about seeing clearly. What you're about to learn is not a theory meant for academic discussion. It's a framework, a way of organizing what you've already experienced but couldn't fully explain, a lens that turns chaos into pattern, confusion into clarity. Pay attention. Take notes if you need to, because once you understand this, you don't unknow it. You start seeing the same structures everywhere. And a warning up front, this will not tell you what you want to hear. It will not reassure you that women are angels. It will not validate the idea that women are villains. It will show you reality, layered, structured, sometimes uncomfortable, but navigable if you're willing to understand it instead of reacting to it. The first thing you need to understand is this. Personality is not chaos. Personality is structure. People behave in patterns. Those patterns are not random. They emerge from psychological configurations that form early in life and remain relatively stable over time. Think of it like an operating system. The hardware is biology. The software is personality. And just like computers don't run infinite operating systems, human behavior doesn't either. There are limits. There are recurring configurations. This means behavior is predictable, not perfectly because people aren't machines, but predictable enough that relationships don't have to feel like blind gambling. The framework I'm giving you isn't the only way to understand psychology, but it's practical. It maps onto real behavior you observe in real relationships, and it gives you language for things you probably noticed but couldn't articulate. Every person has what we can call a psychological core, a fundamental orientation that shapes how they relate to the world. This core doesn't change much across a lifetime. It's the default setting. Here's where most men get confused. The core expresses itself through different roles depending on context. The same person can seem completely different at work versus at home, with friends versus with strangers, early in dating versus years into a marriage. These are not lies, they're not deception, they're adaptations. Humans are social creatures. We adjust presentation based on environment. A woman can be nurturing with children, competitive with coworkers, playful with close friends, and reserved with strangers. Same core, different expressions. The mistake most men make is assuming that one of these expressions is the real person and the others are fake. That's not how it works. All of them are real. They are simply different facets of the same underlying structure. Your job is not to decide which version is real. Your job is to identify the core, recognize which role you're seeing, and notice when roles shift. That's the foundation of everything else. The core reveals itself most clearly under pressure. When someone is stressed, Tired, scared, or caught off guard, the energy required to maintain roles drops. And when that energy drops, the core starts to show through. Now let's talk about the major psychological orientations you'll encounter. These aren't rigid categories. Most people are combinations. But understanding the pure forms helps you recognize mixed patterns when they appear. First, attention-focused orientation. Some people organize their psychology around being seen, noticed, validated. Their self-worth connects directly to external attention. They feel alive when focus flows toward them and diminished when it doesn't. This isn't moral vanity, it's psychological wiring. Second, status-focused orientation. These individuals organize around hierarchy, achievement, and social position. They're highly aware of where they stand relative to others. Relationships often serve as status markers. Who they're with reflects who they are. Third, connection-focused orientation. These people organize around emotional bonds. They seek depth, intimacy, and feeling understood. They're less interested in being seen by many and more interested in being truly known by a few. Fourth, security-focused orientation. These individuals prioritize stability, safety, and predictability. They prefer known quantities over exciting possibilities. They're willing to sacrifice excitement for peace. Fifth, experience-focused orientation. These people organize around sensation, novelty, and intensity. Routine feels suffocating. They're drawn to whatever feels alive in the moment. Sixth, control-focused orientation. These individuals organize around order, influence, and authority. They feel secure when they're directing outcomes and anxious when things feel chaotic or out of their control. Most people you meet will have one or two dominant orientations. Identifying the dominant one tells you a great deal about what drives their behavior. Here's a practical method. The dominant orientation often reveals itself in what someone talks about when they're free to choose topics. What do they consistently notice? What excites them? What do they return to again and again? Also watch triggers. An attention-focused person reacts strongly to being ignored. A status-focused person reacts strongly to disrespect or being outperformed. A connection-focused person reacts strongly to emotional distance. Triggers reveal structure. Carl Jung called the social presentation the persona, the mask we wear in social situations. Not fake in a dishonest sense, more like an interface. Everyone has a persona. You do, I do. You can't walk around with your full psychological complexity visible at all times. Social interaction would collapse. But here's what matters for relationships. Different personas serve different functions. Some personas signal warmth, approachability, and safety. Some signal vulnerability and need, inviting caretaking. Some signal confidence, sexuality, and value. Some signal innocence and low threat. Some signal distance, mystery, and unavailability, creating chase dynamics. The key insight is this: personas are tools. They're selected based on what someone is trying to accomplish in a given context. Recognizing which persona you're seeing helps you understand what that person is trying to achieve with you in that moment. What makes this difficult is that skilled individuals can switch personas fluidly, sometimes within a single conversation. This isn't always manipulation. Sometimes it's social intelligence. But it does mean you can't assume the version you're seeing now is the version you'll always get. A useful question to ask yourself is this: does this persona feel earned or performed? Genuine warmth feels different from performed warmth. Real confidence feels different from projected confidence. Over time, you develop instincts for the difference. Got it. If the persona is what people show the world, the shadow is what they hide from it. Carl Jung used the term shadow to describe the parts of ourselves we reject. Traits, impulses, desires, fears, and emotions that don't fit our self-image, or what we believe is socially acceptable. These are the aspects of ourselves we push down, deny, or pretend don't exist. But the shadow doesn't disappear. It goes underground. And from there, it continues to influence behavior in ways the person often doesn't consciously recognize. This matters in relationships more than almost anything else, Because what people suppress doesn't stay suppressed forever. It leaks. The shadow tends to surface during stress, exhaustion, emotional intensity, intoxication, or moments when someone is caught off guard. The persona requires energy to maintain. When that energy drops, cracks appear, and something else comes through. A woman who presents as endlessly sweet, agreeable, and accommodating may carry a shadow filled with resentment and unexpressed anger. A woman who presents as tough, independent, and emotionally invulnerable may carry a shadow filled with fear of abandonment and a deep desire to be protected. A woman who presents as sexually confident and liberated may carry a shadow filled with shame, insecurity, or fear of being emotionally exposed. The shadow is not evil. It is simply unacknowledged. Every person has one, including you. Understanding this changes how you see people. It allows you to hold two truths at once. Someone can be sincere in how they present themselves and still be hiding parts of who they are. Those hidden parts will eventually express themselves. If you are evaluating someone for a relationship, one of the most important things you can do is observe what they seem to be hiding, especially what they're hiding from themselves. Because whatever lives in the shadow will eventually surface in the relationship. Better to recognize it early than to be blindsided later. You can often detect shadow material by listening to strong denials. When someone insists loudly that a trait does not apply to them, pay attention. "I'm not a jealous person," said by someone who constantly monitors your social media. "I don't care about money," said by someone who brings up finances in every conversation. "I'm completely over my ex," said by someone who references them repeatedly. The more emphatic the denial, the more likely it is that the denied trait lives in the shadow. Different psychological orientations tend to suppress different fears. Understanding these tendencies allows you to anticipate what kind of shadow material might emerge. Attention-focused personalities often suppress fears of being ordinary, forgettable, or invisible. Their shadow contains terror of fading into the background, of becoming just another replaceable face. When this fear is triggered, it can emerge as dramatic bids for attention, validation-seeking, or emotional escalation. Status-focused personalities often suppress feelings of inadequacy and fear of failure. Their shadow contains the belief that they are secretly not good enough. When their position feels threatened, this can emerge as defensiveness, competitiveness, or contempt toward others. Connection-focused personalities often suppress fears of abandonment and rejection. Their shadow contains terror of being left, of not being enough to keep someone's love. When triggered, this can emerge as clinginess, emotional testing, or preemptive withdrawal. Security-focused personalities often suppress desires for excitement, novelty, and freedom. Their shadow contains impulses toward risk that conflict with their need for predictability. This can emerge as sudden, surprising breaks from routine or impulsive decisions that seem out of character. Experience-focused personalities often suppress needs for stability, depth, and consistency. Their shadow contains longing for genuine emotional connection that conflicts with their restless seeking. This can emerge as emotional crashes, emptiness, or desperation after periods of excess. Control-focused personalities often suppress vulnerability and the desire to be taken care of. Their shadow contains a wish to surrender control and be protected rather than always protecting. When their control systems fail, this can emerge as breakdowns, rage, or emotional collapse. If you want to understand behavior at its deepest level, look for fear. Much of what people do in relationships is driven by fear they may not consciously recognize. Fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, fear of being used, fear of being replaced, fear of aging, fear of being trapped, fear of being alone. These fears operate in the background like invisible engines, shaping decisions that appear to be about something else entirely. A woman who demands constant communication may frame it as wanting closeness, but the engine underneath may be fear of abandonment. A woman who keeps her options open may frame it as independence, but the engine underneath may be fear of commitment and loss of control. When you identify the core fear, behavior stops being confusing. It becomes logical, a strategy for managing that fear. This is not about judging people for having fears. Everyone has them. This is about responding to reality, not surface presentation. The deepest fears are usually formed early in life, in childhood attachments, formative relationships, and experiences that left emotional marks. These fears do not respond easily to logic or reassurance. They are installed below conscious thought and run continuously in the background. When you identify someone's core fear, you also identify what they will sacrifice to avoid triggering it. Someone terrified of abandonment will sacrifice dignity to avoid being left. Someone terrified of being controlled will sacrifice intimacy to preserve autonomy. Someone terrified of failure will sacrifice connection to protect status. Fear predicts sacrifice. This is one of the most important principles to understand. Now let's address something that confuses many men. The same woman can seem like completely different people at different times. This is not automatically deception. This is role switching, a normal psychological process where individuals move between different modes of being depending on context. You experience this yourself. The version of you at work is not the same as the version with close friends. The version of you in conflict is not the same as the version in intimacy. Same person, different modes. Role switching becomes problematic when it's extreme or when it's used to secure commitment under one presentation and then maintain the relationship under another. So how do you tell the difference between healthy adaptation and problematic shifting? Time, observation, consistency. Healthy role switching has coherence underneath. You can trace how different expressions connect to a stable core. Problematic shifting feels fragmented, like different people inhabiting the same body. Pay attention to who someone is when they think no one important is watching. Pay attention to how they treat people who cannot benefit them. Pay attention to what emerges under stress. These moments reveal the core more reliably than curated behavior. Psychological patterns do not remain frozen in time. They evolve, sometimes smoothly, sometimes painfully, in response to life, aging, success, failure, and changing circumstances. Certain strategies that work well in youth stop working later. What once brought attention, validation, or leverage gradually loses effectiveness. This creates pressure, and how a person responds to that pressure tells you a great deal about their psychological health. Healthy adaptation means adjusting strategies to match reality. It means updating expectations. It means developing new sources of meaning and self-worth as old ones fade. Unhealthy adaptation looks very different. It means clinging rigidly to strategies that no longer work. It means denying reality instead of adjusting to it. It means increasing bitterness as expectations collide with outcomes. It means blaming external forces for internal refusal to adapt. You can often predict how someone will age psychologically by observing how they handle small disappointments now. Do they reflect and recalibrate? Or do they double down, blame others, and insist reality is wrong? This is one of the most important traits to evaluate in a long-term partner. Looks change, circumstances shift, social value fluctuates. What remains is how someone responds to change. A woman who can acknowledge her own role in failures, adjust expectations to reality, and develop new sources of meaning as old ones diminish, that is someone who will age well psychologically. A woman who insists the problem is always external, who refuses to accept limits, and who responds to disappointment with resentment rather than adaptation. That is someone who will become increasingly difficult over time. This isn't about whether someone is struggling right now. Everyone struggles. It's about how they struggle. Do they move through difficulty toward growth, or do they get stuck, accumulating resentment? Resentment is one of the most corrosive forces in relationships. Some people carry unresolved resentment from past experiences, betrayals, disappointments, broken expectations, perceived injustices. The original grievances may be real, they may even be valid. But when resentment hardens into a permanent orientation, it stops being about what actually happened. It becomes a lens. New people become substitutes for old wounds. Current partners inherit the blame for past failures. Neutral actions are interpreted through suspicion. Once resentment becomes identity, no amount of good behavior can fix it. You cannot outperform someone's bitterness. You spot chronic resentment by listening carefully. How does she talk about past relationships? How does she talk about men in general? How does she explain conflict, patterns of blame, lack of personal accountability, consistent positioning as the victim of others' malice? This doesn't mean she wasn't hurt. It means she hasn't processed the hurt. And unresolved resentment is not a problem you can solve. It's a warning sign you need to recognize. Now let's talk about relationship configurations. The ways people fundamentally relate to others. These configurations are not moral judgments. They are strategies. Some people relate through extraction. They seek to get as much value as possible from a relationship while investing as little as necessary. This isn't always conscious or malicious. Often it's learned early, in environments where resources, emotional or material, were scarce. Some people relate through exchange. They prioritize fairness, reciprocity, and mutual contribution. These relationships tend to be stable, but can feel transactional if emotional depth isn't cultivated. Some people relate through merging. They seek deep emotional fusion, shared identity, intense bonding. These relationships feel powerful and meaningful, but can create dependency and blurred boundaries. Some people relate through independence. They prioritize autonomy even within partnership. They resist interdependence and protect personal freedom. This preserves individuality but can limit intimacy. There is no objectively correct configuration, but there are compatibility consequences. A merger paired with an independence-focused partner creates chronic tension. Two extractors create mutual exploitation. An exchanger paired with a merger may feel overwhelmed or drained. Understanding someone's relational strategy helps you predict what the relationship will feel like long-term. Now we need to address control-oriented relating because it often hides in plain sight. Control does not always look like overt domination. It can be subtle. Managing information, influencing decisions indirectly, creating dependency, positioning oneself as indispensable. At moderate levels, control can create structure. Someone has to make decisions. A partner comfortable leading isn't inherently problematic, but control tends to intensify over time, not diminish. Early on, it appears mild, reasonable, even helpful. Later, autonomy erodes. Disagreement becomes unacceptable. Your needs are managed rather than respected. Early indicators matter. How does she respond when you make decisions she didn't anticipate? How does she handle not getting her way? Does she respect your autonomy or treat it as something to manage? What you see early is the soft version. Another critical pattern to recognize is accumulated emotional debt. Some people enter relationships carrying unresolved emotional pain from previous ones. They may appear functional, even pleasant, but the debt is still there. Over time, it gets collected. You pay for things you didn't do. You're punished for sins you didn't commit. Again, this doesn't make someone evil. It makes them unsafe to invest in deeply. Now let's address trauma. Many of the difficult patterns we've discussed have roots in trauma. Abandonment, betrayal, neglect, emotional inconsistency, or abuse. Understanding this matters for two reasons. First, it replaces judgment with comprehension. Harmful behaviors are often survival strategies that made sense at one time. Second, it helps you assess risk. Trauma does not excuse harmful behavior, and you are not obligated to become someone's healing journey. Patterns formed in trauma do not change easily. They require awareness, sustained effort, and often professional intervention. Compassion and self-protection are not opposites. You can understand someone deeply and still decide the cost is too high. Now here's where most men fail. They don't observe, they project. They see what they hope to see. They explain away contradictions. They accept early presentations as truth. They fill gaps with fantasy instead of data. Real observation requires discipline. It means watching patterns over time. It means noticing inconsistencies instead of rationalizing them. It means prioritizing actions over words. The best observation happens when someone doesn't know they're being evaluated. How does she treat service workers? How does she react when things don't go her way? What does she say about people who aren't present? What patterns appear repeatedly in her life story? You cannot evaluate someone accurately in a few weeks of dating. Everyone is on their best behavior. You need time, You need varied situations. And you need the willingness to see what's actually there. This framework is not a crystal ball. People are complex. Context matters. Growth happens. Regression happens. The purpose of this framework is not prediction perfection, it is clarity. To replace naive hope with informed assessment. To stop being blindsided by things that were visible all along. Some men take this knowledge and become cynical or manipulative. That's a mistake. Clarity does not require cruelty. Understanding does not require emotional shutdown. The goal is to see clearly and still engage warmly, to protect yourself without becoming bitter, to understand patterns while remaining open to being surprised. Everything you've learned so far is useless if it stays abstract. Frameworks don't protect you. Understanding doesn't protect you. Application does. Most men hear insights like these and nod along. But when attraction enters the picture, observation collapses. Hope takes over. Projection fills the gaps. Warning signs get explained away instead of evaluated. So let's make this practical. When you meet someone, your goal is not to impress, convince, or secure commitment quickly. Your goal is to observe. Start by identifying the dominant orientation. Is she primarily attention-focused, status-focused, connection-focused, security-focused, experience-focused, or control-focused? Don't guess based on labels or appearance. Watch behavior over time. What does she consistently talk about when she's free to choose topics? What lights her up? What frustrates her? What does she track, monitor, or compare? Next, observe the persona. What version of herself is she presenting to you? Warm and open? Vulnerable and uncertain? Confident and sexual? Distant and mysterious? Ask yourself a simple but powerful question. What function is this persona serving? Is it inviting closeness? Eliciting protection? Establishing value? Creating chase? Then look beneath the persona. Based on what's being presented, what is likely being suppressed? If she presents extreme independence, what vulnerability might be hidden? If she presents constant warmth, what resentment might be buried? If she presents confidence, what insecurity might live underneath? You are not trying to diagnose or fix her. You are trying to see the whole picture. Now assess relational strategy. Does she relate through extraction, exchange, merging, or independence? Is there evidence of control patterns? Is there unresolved resentment coloring how she talks about others? Patterns matter more than intentions. Good intentions do not cancel unhealthy patterns. Attraction does not neutralize risk. Take your time. Do not commit before you've seen how she behaves under different conditions. Stress, disappointment, boredom, conflict, success. Anyone can perform during the honeymoon phase. Few people can sustain coherence across time and pressure. And here's the part most men avoid. This framework applies to you as much as it applies to her. Understanding others without understanding yourself creates blind spots. Ask yourself the same questions. What is your dominant orientation? Do you seek validation, status, connection, security, experience, control? What personas do you wear in dating? The nice guy? The confident provider? The emotionally detached man? The rescuer? What shadow material are you suppressing? Fear of rejection? Fear of being ordinary? Fear of being used? Fear of being alone? What do you sacrifice to avoid triggering your core fear? Dignity, boundaries, honesty, self-respect? The man who knows himself is harder to manipulate. He recognizes when his buttons are being pushed because he knows where his buttons are. He sees through performances because he's aware of his own. He catches projection because he understands what he tends to project. This is why most men remain confused. They react instead of observe. They take words at face value instead of tracking patterns. They confuse chemistry with compatibility. They mistake intensity for intimacy. They operate from hope instead of assessment. And when reality finally contradicts the fantasy, they feel blindsided, even though the signs were there all along. The female mind is not mysterious. It is not chaotic. It is not incomprehensible. It operates according to patterns, psychological structures shaped by orientation, fear, adaptation, and history. What makes it seem mysterious is that most men never learn to look beneath the surface. They respond to presentation. They project their desires. They ignore inconsistency. They confuse role switching with contradiction. You now have a framework, not to become cynical, not to manipulate, not to close yourself off, but to see clearly. Clarity is not power over others. It is power over your own choices. The power to assess accurately, the power to decide wisely, the power to give access to your time, energy, and life intentionally rather than impulsively. That is not bitterness, H. That is maturity. And maturity is exactly what has been missing from most men's approach to relationships. They chase what they want to be true instead of engaging with what is true. Then they're shocked when reality refuses to cooperate with fantasy. You don't need perfect prediction. You need honest observation. You don't need guarantees. You need discernment. And once you learn to see structure instead of chaos, relationships stop feeling like guesswork and start feeling navigable.